Welcome to this video on academic integrity and its impact upon admission as a lawyer. To provide some context and to help you understand how important academic integrity is to a future career as a lawyer, I thought I'd start with a story. So, if you're sitting comfortably, I'll begin. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, because it was in 2002, there was a mature age student called Miss Liverai, and she was studying a law degree at JCU. Now, in those days, there was no plagiarism detection software, but her lecturer realised that her assignment that she had submitted in her Law of Trust unit was very similar to a journal article on the same topic. In fact, when the lecturer reviewed the content of the assignment and compared it to the journal article, it was apparent that just 2 paragraphs of the journal article had been deleted, and there had been minor amendments to the content, such as changes to titles and headings, etc. Now, Ms. Liverai stated that she had submitted that assignment document in error, and the university delegate did not accept her account of what happened. After being found guilty of a breach of academic integrity, other units were reviewed, and she was subsequently found to have plagiarized material in 2 other assignments throughout her law degree. She applied for admission as a lawyer in Queensland in 2006. The Legal Practitioners Admissions Board opposed her admission based on the findings of plagiarism while she was a law student. The Court of Appeal was therefore required to determine whether or not she was fit for admission as a lawyer. In her application, she admitted the offences and stated that she took responsibility for them, although she was under external pressures at the time. Despite this admission of guilt, the court found that at that point in time she was still not suitable for admission. So why did the court determine that she was not fit for admission as a lawyer at this point in time? Well, plagiarism is dishonest conduct. It involves attempting to use someone else's work or ideas and pass them off as your own work or ideas. In not acknowledging the source of the work or not acknowledging the idea belongs to someone else, you present to the reader that it's actually your work, and that's regarded as dishonest conduct. In addition, Miss Liverai had shown very little insight into her conduct while she was a law student. At paragraph 21 of its judgment, the Court of Appeal said, "Her unwillingness subsequently to acknowledge that misconduct established a lack of genuine insight into its gravity and significance. For present purposes, that aspect is at least as significant as the academic dishonesty itself." So note that the court is stressing the seriousness of the academic integrity issue. So what does this story mean for law students who wish to practice law? Well, it tells us that your conduct during your time at law school is highly relevant to your application for admission as a lawyer, and any academic integrity breaches may present problems for admission as a lawyer in the future. Now, this does not mean that it is impossible to be admitted as a lawyer with academic integrity issues on your record, but it does mean that you will have to go to a hearing and present submissions as to why you should be considered a fit and proper person for admission. So let's have a look at admission in a little bit more detail now.
As part of the process of determining whether a person should be admitted as a lawyer, the court will consider whether the applicant is a fit and proper person. This is a statutory requirement, and you can see on the slide there a list of the relevant provisions in each jurisdiction. So you can pause the video if you would like and go and look at the statute relevant to your jurisdiction so that you can see what the requirements are. So how do the courts find out about academic integrity breaches? Well, as part of the process of applying for admission as a lawyer, you must disclose in your application any academic integrity breaches at law school. Now, while the temptation might be to not disclose any such findings against you, this would be a risky and unwise tactic. In Rio G. a lawyer was subsequently struck off the roll of practitioners when it was subsequently discovered that he had been found guilty of academic misconduct and had failed to disclose that in his application for admission as a lawyer. This was despite the fact that there were no suggestions that he had not performed adequately as a practitioner. So it is clear that academic integrity must be disclosed in an application for admission as a lawyer, and that the court will take it seriously. The next question is, why do the courts adopt this approach towards academic integrity breaches that have occurred in the past when the applicant was still a law student? You can see that in the court's judgment in relation to Miss Liverye's application for admission that the Court of Appeal referred to the earlier case of Re A.J.G. Pause the video now if you need time to read this quote. So from this quote you can see the high levels of integrity and honesty expected of members of the legal profession. The reason why academic integrity breaches are a concern for the courts is because they have at their core issues of dishonesty, which is of course the polar opposite of what is expected of members of the legal profession. Pause this video and take a moment to read this quote. Now from this quote you can begin to understand why academic integrity breaches are a concern for the courts. You can see in this quote that the court is stressing that candor and frankness are required of lawyers. The legal community and members of the public are dependent on lawyers to act honestly and ethically at all times. And this is the case even where acting honestly and ethically will cause embarrassment to the lawyer or conflicts with the lawyer's own self-interest. So we now know that academic integrity breaches are relevant to admission as a lawyer, and we know that this is because the courts are concerned that these breaches, which have at their core issues of dishonesty, indicate that perhaps that individual will not comply with the requirements that the individual act honestly, ethically, and in accordance with their professional conduct requirements when they are a lawyer. Let's now look at what CQU regards as a breach of academic integrity. Plagiarism is the most common academic integrity issue to arise in applications for admission. As a consequence, there will be a separate video on this which covers all the ways in which students may be found to have plagiarized. Note that it does not require an intention to plagiarize. It may be committed inadvertently, and so it's really important that we cover it in detail so that you are fully versed in how this may occur and take steps to avoid it happening to you. There are a range of ways in which a student may breach academic integrity. One of those is collusion. Now the policy provides a range of examples of collusion, and it's really important to read the policy to gain a full appreciation of what conduct can amount to collusion. Essentially though, this focuses on the fact that others have helped you produce your work to some degree, but you present that work entirely as your own, and the collaboration is either not approved by the unit coordinator or is not acknowledged in the work. In essence then, it involves falsely representing that this is entirely your own work when in fact it has been produced with collaboration from other students. Examples of collusion include allowing other students to copy part of your work, or helping other students to produce their work or edit their work when the task does not permit this. Now obviously if it's a group assessment that's absolutely fine, but where you are meant to complete a task individually, you need to err on the side of caution and assume that you cannot collaborate on that task with others unless the task instructions say that you can. And this is because the task is measuring your level of achievement, not what your level of achievement is with the help of your peers. So if in doubt, always check with your tutor what the parameters of the task are before you commence working on it with others. But generally assume that if it is an individual task, you cannot work on the task with others or seek help from or provide help to other students. Moving on to cheating, this is perhaps the one that most students are likely to think of when we mention the word academic integrity. It of course involves the typical image of copying someone else's work in the exam room, or scribbling notes on paper or on our arms and taking that into a closed book exam where such notes are not permitted. But it is broader than this, and it can include things like completing assessments on behalf of other students, or even falsifying information such as data or results that have been collected for an assessment item. So make sure that you look at the examples provided in the policy, and remember that academic integrity is required of all your units, including your non-law units. On the slide there is also contract cheating. Now this involves having someone else write some part of your work and it doesn't need to be paid for. So for example, it can occur through an essay swap website. It is regarded as a serious breach of academic misconduct. Again, you need to read the entire policy so that you are familiar with the definitions of each type of academic integrity breach, but note that this is the most serious. Note that there is a general catch-all as well. In essence, the policy is targeting those who gain an unfair advantage, which means that their assessment does not reflect what they would have achieved without that advantage, and it's designed to ensure fairness for all students who are completing the relevant assessment. You should make sure that you review the CQU Academic Integrity Policy and Procedure so that you're really on top of all the different types of academic integrity and the consequences for a breach. It's important when you read the policy to make sure that you are very familiar with the content, and it's a good idea to read it every term so that the content is fresh in your mind at the outset of every unit. Now, if you want more information, Chapter 4 of Effective Legal Writing focuses on plagiarism, its implications for admission as a lawyer, and good referencing practice. It's available as an ebook in the library, so make sure you check that out. Now, as I mentioned, the next video in the series will focus on all the ways in which students may commit plagiarism even unintentionally. And this is because it is the form of academic integrity that is most frequently seen in applications for admission as a lawyer. So it's very important that you review the next video for further detail about the variety of ways in which you may commit plagiarism and some tips on how to avoid it.